Hello and welcome, my name is Nate from Video Games Recon, and in this part 2 of 2, we're going to be checking out my favourite top 20 announcements of E3 2016. Not which games I think will be best or even per se games I'm looking forward to the most. Instead, this list will be about the announcements that made the most impact for me personally. So please keep in mind this is just my humble opinion, and if you have a different one then feel free to post your top 10 or top 20 games in the comments below. Also, as an FYI, I may need to use just screenshots from time to time or do re-edits to these videos, as you know what YouTube is like in terms of fair use with trailers. Anyway, enough jibber jabber. Without any further ado, let's do it to it. 10. Mass Effect Andromeda. From what little of this game we got to see, it looked amazing, and seeing as it's a Mass Effect game, it's not likely to be bad, is it? But my excitement for this game is hampered a bit by how little we actually got to see, as last year they made it look like they were much further along in development than perhaps they are, as there was very little actual gameplay shown in this trailer, and although what we did see looked great, it's hard to get too hyped for a game I don't have a huge personal history with, and that we probably won't see till at least fall 2017. That said, I'm sure this one will be worth the wait. 9. Yooka-Laylee. My body is so ready for this game. We've had more than enough time to miss this sort of game, and I feel like I need a game like this as a palate cleanser that harkens back to those good old days of adventure games like Banjo-Kazooie or Spyro the Dragon, that doesn't take itself too seriously and is a funny, relaxing and fun jaunt through a colourful cartoony world with plenty of stuff to do, as opposed to more the grey-brown shooter games that have taken themselves way too seriously in the past few years. And although we've already had a bit of a revival kick off with Ratchet and Clank, which I'm sure I'll get around to at some point, even though I was never particularly into that series. That said, I'm most stoked for this game and reliving some of that nostalgia and getting to dick about in a truly open world. 8. Horizon Zero Dawn. The belle of the ball returns this year looking just as good, if not better than it did last year. This is easily one of the games in this list I'm most looking forward to get my hands on. The only downside to that is we'll have to wait till February 2017, which sucks as I was hoping for a fall 2016 release. But nevertheless, I'd rather a game be pushed back and be good than rushed and be a hot mess. And talking of good, man does this game look dope. On top of what looks like a very interesting story, I'm really looking forward to losing myself to this open world and getting to roam around seeing what this universe has to offer. Not to mention duking it out with Grimlock's cousins. If I was to explain this game to someone who's been living in a cave for the past year, I'd say think Far Cry meets Witcher meets Tomb Raider with a little bit of Transformers sprinkled on top for good measure, and you have Horizon Zero Dawn. Seriously, what more would you need to say to get someone excited for this game? 7. Dead Rising 4. That crazy over-the-top slaughterfest is back, and so is Frank West. And although looks somewhat like a remake, is in fact a new game. I've messed about with this series back in the day, but coming from a PlayStation lineage, and although some of the games have been on PlayStation, Dead Rising appears more at home on Xbox, and so I never really got the opportunity to get as engrossed in the series. And even though I think this is a timed exclusive as opposed to a full exclusive, and although I could now pick it up on Windows 10, I don't know if I'd be picking it up at launch, as this fall season is so stacked with games. I'm just not going to have enough pennies to get it. That said, this game looks so fun, and I really like the Christmas feel, especially for a game released in the fall, and that this title seems to be reliving some of its former glories. So plenty to be stoked for, and a great announcement. 6. Zelda Breath of the Wild. This game looks great, even for an underpowered system like the Wii U. Graphically, this is a great showcase for that system. On top of which, it appears we're getting a truly modern Zelda game, with a real open world, but with the gameplay of Zelda games you know and love. And although I've heard some complaints that the world looks a bit too sparse, personally I think it looks fine, and you have to take into account that this is still a Nintendo game at its heart, and is going to have a very different pace to a lot of other more hardcore open world games. Which, like I said, for a Zelda game is fine, and personally I wouldn't worry about it if you were a Nintendo fan. And although the buzz around this game might have it sound something like Ocarina of Time meets Witcher 3, which might be too much of a mantle for it to climb, I really think this is going to create a renaissance in the series, whether or not it needed it. The only thing that sucks about it is that I'm not going to get to play it anytime soon as I don't own a Wii U. But who knows, we'll see what the NX has to offer next year. Maybe I'll be playing Zelda on that platform, whatever the fuck it is. 5. Detroit Become Human. Been hyped about this game since the first trailer at last year's Paris Games Week. The story idea for this game is so good. Initially I was a little disappointed that we weren't going to get to play the woman from the first trailer, as her story sounded super interesting. But as it turns out, there are going to be multiple characters similar to Heavy Rain, and also like Heavy Rain, those characters can permanently die, dependent on your choices. Speaking of choices, from what I've seen about the game, it appears every choice you make will have knock-on effects to other choices later on, at least within a scenario anyway, thus potentially changing the outcome of your choices depending on decisions previously made. I'm not normally mad about these sorts of games in terms of gameplay, but this one looks super cool and definitely one I'm looking forward to. 4. Spider-Man. Although you can never truly trust trailers and cutscenes like this that don't per se feature gameplay, taking off my Cynic's hat for a second, this game looks amazing. An open world Spider-Man game made by a quality developer with pedigree like Insomniac. What's not to love? Seriously. The Spider-Man games in the past were kinda hit and miss, but with studios like Sucker Punch, makers of Infamous, showing how a licensed game like this should be made, setting out a good roadmap for Insomniac, who already have a great open world game in a similar vein under their belt in Sunset Overdrive. This game web-slinged completely out of left field at the Sony conference, and I don't think anybody was expecting it. And although we don't know a lot about it, there's much to get excited about with this game. However, if you're an Xbox or PC guy, rumours are it's a PS4 exclusive, so you may want to look into that before you board the hype train. 3. Resident Evil 7. Slow clap everyone. This game came out of nowhere. When the trailer first started, I thought it was going to be Outlast 2. But no, not only does it turn out to be Resident Evil 7, but it also turns out that it's going to be both a regular game and a VR game. And not only a VR game, but you know that cool and scary VR game The Kitchen everyone was talking about last year? Well, it turns out that was a tech demo for Resident Evil 7 VR. Bravo, bravo. I have to say, after Resident Evil 6 and Umbrella Corps, this is the last thing I was expecting. What a massive departure from chasing that action game and COD money. Personally, I'm a little disappointed they aren't going back to the, in my opinion, pinnacle of Resident Evil gameplay in Resident Evil 4. But anything to shake up this franchise and not deliver another unimaginative flop like Resident Evil 6 is a step in a positive direction. Plus, there's always the possibility that the Resident Evil 2 remake will have that sort of gameplay style. 2. Project Scorpio. How could I not talk about the elephant in the room in the Scorpio? We'd all heard the rumours before, and although all they did was pretty much confirm those rumours, at least they came out the gate and said something about their future hardware plans, unlike Sony. Both companies had great showings at E3, but where Sony clearly won out on games, Microsoft won and impressed on their hardware. So much so that it looks like Sony was shook by the leaked Scorpio specs, and it appears maybe going back to the drawing board somewhat with their Neo, as the Scorpio would be significantly more powerful than the rumoured specs of the PlayStation Neo. And although I'm not sure either are good business decisions or good for the consumer, it appears Xbox is essentially making a backwards compatible new generation of console by another name, which is probably the best move. Even though the window between this step in hardware is nowhere near long enough for my likings, as this console is going to have all the flops, 6 teraflops of performance as opposed to the 1.3 teraflops of the Xbox One. And with that sort of performance leap, sounds kinda like a new generation of console to me. Either way, A big announcement and something for Xbox fans to get hyped about. Maybe. Before we get into my number 1 announcement of E3 2016, if you want to check out part 1 and games 20 through 11, a link will be on screen and in the description. Also, before we get into the finale, let's give a shout out in no particular order to some great games that narrowly missed the list. State of Decay 2, Batman VR, Fallout VR, Fe, Crash Bandicoot Remastered, Titanfall 2, and Ghost Recon Wildlands. In at number 1, Death Stranding. And by far the biggest what the fuck moment of all E3 has to be Hideo Kojima strolling down his LED yellow brick road, rocking up to the mic and saying, "I'm back." Followed by a typically fucked up Kojima trailer that both made no sense with its weird umbilical cord baby, beached whales and floating people, yet still managed to be entirely captivating and steal the show. God knows what that game's gonna be, it could be anything, and we literally know nothing about how it will play and feel. Also, this is going to be one of those the more we find out about the story, the less we actually know kind of game. I wouldn't expect this game anytime soon. We're looking at a late 2018 or 2019 game at the earliest. And God knows whether it's going to be an action game, survival horror, psychological thriller, or none of the above. But what I can tell you is that this was all anybody was talking about, and like I said, stole the show and is my number 1 most hyped announcement of E3 2016. So, that was my top 20 or most hyped announcements of E3 2016. What do you guys think about these games? Got a different order to mine? Either way, feel free to hit me up in the comments with your thoughts. Anywho, this just leaves me to say if you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, share and subscribe for more BS of a similar nature. Thank you and goodbye.